Hello and welcome to a new episode. I have with me my friend Cheryl, uh, who I have been wanting to have as a guest for the last at least 2, 3 years. Uh, she's finally agreed and found the time, and let's hear what she has to say about her life. Her experiences have been quite uh, similar to a lot of my friends, but very distinctive in her outlook. Let's see what she has to share with us today. Hi and welcome, Cheryl. It's such a long wait, I think a couple of years since I've been wanting
Yeah.
you on the podcast. Uh, can you give me a brief introduction so that the audience knows a bit of context?
About me, I think I've been in advertising for 12 years, born and raised in Mumbai, moved to UAE 6 years back. We met when I started my career very early on, I think 2 years out of college, and that's when we met when we were working together in an agency. And I think we've been connected for some reason or the other, even though we didn't work. I think we've always kept in touch because there was some connection and
Connect.
some vibe always there. So
Yeah.
that's about me. I don't know what much to say.
Okay. So I've been thinking what to ask. Some days I think I ask the same questions in different ways to all my guests. So I want to ask you something that troubled me a lot when I was a kid. And perhaps you might have some experience with it or not. Let's just figure out. It's I was bullied a lot on religious backgrounds in my case, and I also thought there were lot many other people bullied for various reasons at different points of time. Sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. When I grew up, this bully word didn't exist. Everybody bullied
Hmm.
everybody when they got the chance. Also. So, have you had any kind of experience, uh, whatever? Have you always been?
Being like like you very rightly said, when we were growing up, we never realized that was bullying, or it created some kind of an impact because it was just कि हाँ दोस्त है मजाक उड़ा रहे हैं चलता है. I never got bullied on religious background. I think for me, because I studied in a convent school, so majority were Christians. I lived in a colony which was a Catholic colony. So again, there was no issue over there again with where bullying was concerned. In fact, even with other religions, even though it was a Catholic colony, we celebrated Ganpati and Navratri.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
would participate on. So that religious basis, I don't think I was ever bullied. There was fat shaming that was done, but it wasn't to the extent of bullying, I would say. Like I remember this one incident in the fifth standard where everybody had to register for NCC. So everybody had to take their height and weight, and I was the heaviest girl in my class. I was heavier than most boys in my class also.
Yeah.
There was just another boy in my class who was in with me since nursery, and we both have been big kids. So, and that lasted for like, oh, everybody were like, oh, your weight is so much, and that's it. But then that didn't uh, go on for a long period of time or anything as such. So, I don't have much experience with bullying per se. I think if I have to term things of bullying would be, if I have to say, then it is like the older siblings making you do work. वो करा like mom dad चलो काम करो. That I would say who I have, but otherwise no, I've been fortunate to not go through anything like that.
Okay. So, in terms of fat shaming, did that continue later on in life? You've always, I have now when I saw you, I didn't see any difference. I've always known you like this. Uh,
Yeah.
so, how does that work? Is it something that you're sensitive to, or sometimes somebody very close to you says something which you kind of think you didn't expect? Is that something as like that has happened ever?
But for me, I'll be very honest. I've been very fortunate and blessed in that ways because my parents never fat shamed us or did anything. It always came from the outside source where your mama or masi or some other distant relative would say, "Arey, patli ho ja, shadi nahi hogi. Patli ho ja, you will look so beautiful." So that term was something which I didn't understand. Like, why do I am beautiful as I am? And we didn't feel it, especially me and my sister also, because she's also on the heavier side. We never felt it because our parents never made us feel that way. They never told us. So I've been very lucky that way. Even among friends, that didn't happen. But yeah, when you walk out on the road in your Bombay, you'll have aunties and uncles looking at you from, top to your toes. Ki, oh, you worn a short skirt or uh, you're wearing such a tight dress. So that gets awkward. But I don't think there has been any scarring incident that has happened with me. But I have a lot of other friends who are my size, and when I listen to their stories and their family reacting it, then I realize ki, oh shit, I've never had something like that. And it's I can, if I ever was in that situation, I don't know how I would have dealt with it.
And this is quite something that nobody talks about. How the family is the first representative of the society in our minds, even as kids. Uh, and this is so beautiful because very often I have thought about it. What could resolve this? And Indian parents, being Indian parents, always side with the society. Is what if you were to generically
Ah,
ask
yeah,
me,
very true.
they keep on saying, "अरे शादी नहीं हो रही है या ये problem है या वो problem, whatever the problem may be." It's not necessarily about looks or about
So
it could
I
be
this is a
studies.
very interesting incident, and I'll tell you how I am so thankful for what how my parents have brought me up. Because my uncle had was home and he was giving me a lecture that you need to lose weight, and if you don't lose weight, how will we find a boy? This was when I was in my 20s, when you typically start looking for proposals. अभी तो family has given up कि ये कर लेंगे इनका जो जब करना है तब. So that time he's like, no, if you don't lose weight, you will not get a good guy. So my father stopped him and said that abhi, if she loses weight and she gets married, tomorrow when she gets pregnant, she puts on weight, is the guy going to leave her then? I would not give my daughter to somebody who's so dependent on his weight, on her weight. He's like, when your sister got married to me, she was stick thin. She got pregnant, she put on weight. I didn't leave her. सो व्हाट इज द गारंटी? अगर ऐसे ही टर्म्स पे शादी करानी है, मैं मेरी बेटी को पूरा जिंदगी बैठा के खिलाऊंगा. आई डोंट वांट सच पीपल. सो
Wonderful.
yeah, which I've seen with my friends. That's not the case. Like their parents telling them ki, don't eat, why are you wearing that dress, it's so short. And it makes them so conscious that, and they're beautiful looking girls, so why would you put that in your head? Like for me, it's never, my weight has never stopped me from doing anything. I would dance on the road, I would dance at parties openly. I've gone hiking, trekking. It obviously, Sinhagad Fort, my friends climbed in 2 hours. I took 3 hours, but I did it.
Yeah,
But that mental block was never there. Ki, oh, मैं मोटी हूँ, I can't do it. And I think that confidence came a lot from what my mom and dad let us be the way we are. They would obviously stop us for health reasons, like, saying that, okay, be careful, you will have problems, but never that you will not be able to marry, you will not be able to do this, you will not be able to do that. That never came into the picture. Or you're not looking beautiful because you're fat. So I think that way is the
that's
confidence
so
that
beautiful.
they more.
Yeah, because also one of the things that I realized as a kid, it didn't come from my parents so much, but uh, sometimes Sardar jokes were common, and when we grew up, it was I enjoyed them much more than most people did because I've always been a comic in my head. I've always
Hmm.
felt uh, I used to quote, I think Oscar Wilde, if I'm not mistaken, what is the use of a good religion if it can't be made fun of?
Oh no,
Uh, and I used to say, yeah, it's quite okay, and as long as the jokes are in good humor and not intended to hurt.
hurt.
And
Absolutely.
the ones that hurt the most were when they came from people who were very close to you, friends who were very close and who were not sensitive enough to understand that this might hurt.
Hmm.
Like I said, I remember one of my closest friends in primary section was a neighbor who was dark skinned, and we all used to call him Kalia. And Kalia was never supposed to be Kalia as in कि you are a dark skinned one or something. It was a एक बार शुरू हो गया तो he also referred to him. He called him Kalia. मेरी टीम में आ गया तो आ गया वो. So there was no intent to hurt at any point of
Hurt.
time.
Yeah.
That became his name. His cousin had polio, one of the rare kids who. So everybody called him Langda, but it was a reference point. So I used to,
Hmm.
if you called me a Sardar, I never minded. So Chota Sardar was me and my Bada Sardar was my brother. But when they started making jokes which kind of hurt and were deliberate, then you started thinking what is wrong. These guys are supposed to understand how I feel about things. And so, in that context, I think it's wonderful you had parents like you've had, and they stood up for you when it mattered because that
Yes.
kind of gives you confidence. I'm still learning as a parent. Honestly, there are days when I land up. Some days back only, I think last week, my daughter and I had a kind of tiff, and I landed up saying something which I said I don't even think like this. Why did I say this?
Hmm.
And immediately I sent her a sorry on her WhatsApp, and I said my point was right, but my argument was stupid. So I'm sorry. And she sent back, no, I think I should also be sorry because I also shouted at you. Something. And I was like, yeah, it's so easy. You let it go and you understand because you want to win the point. You'll end up
Point.
saying something which may not be your intention at all. So this is one kind of topic. There's another one that I've. So today I'm going to shoot all the bullets that I have stored for so many years. So you've been a person who was passionate about filmmaking for a little while, if I remember correctly. And you were also, which I kept teasing you about, a gold medalist uh, in some academic MBA or something. I don't remember really now. But you and I used to tease you about it. What I want to ask you is this is another thing that as kids or when we are growing up, we are asked to make a choice. But here you are, equally comfortable with both aspects of yourself, a creative aspect and academically doing well for yourself. Something which is now imposed upon our kids. Sometimes when I see these reality shows, sometimes I'm kind of fed up because the bar is set so high and the bar is about winning, about achieving. They have this crying drama is happening, and the mother is crying, and the father is crying, and this person is dying, and that person has cancer, and I find it. I understand that you need TRPs and the show needs to work, but is this the criteria we need to set for a generation? Like, look at
No,
you.
not.
You've been good at both. And I never, even when I teased you, you were happy about it and you were laughing at it in the same spirit that I meant it. And we discussed filmmaking as passionately as I was at that point of time about filmmaking. So there's no, how do you see this topic itself, as well as your experiences about being good in two things, and how did you make the choice, or how did you go about this entire circle?
So it initially, when that choice came, whether I want to go creatively or whether I want to go to the academic and servicing side, what I realized was coming from a middle class background. My parents, my father was a government servant, so that job stability and 9 to 6 working. So, firstly, advertising was something completely new to them. Like I would get when I started working 6 o'clock, he would call me asking me, "Have you left office?" And I would say, "No, we've just started working." And do 3 दिन तक you were not coming home because you were sitting on edits. That didn't sit very comfortably. So he's
Comfortably.
like, if this is going to be your life and you're making peanuts, how sustainable is it going to be? And I was like, no, no, but I want to do this, I want to do this. I tried it for 2.5 years, but it didn't kind of work. And I realized that probably I'm passionate about it, but I don't think I might have that talent to take it to that other level. And as a person, I think everybody, you don't need to be good in only one particular thing. You can be good in multiple things. So for me it wasn't very difficult a choice for, because at the back of my head for I think कि हाँ ठीक है अगर filmmaking में जाना ही है I can always do it at a later stage. I mean, if Bobby Deol can become a DJ at the age of 50, I can become a film director at the age of
Oh,
60.
I didn't know.
Oh,
He's become a DJ now.
yeah, yeah, he does DJing gigs. So
Wow.
obviously people hire him because he's Bobby Deol. He's already there. But I think I will work hard to save enough money to produce my own film. So
Yeah,
that is the retirement plan.
wonderful. But let me stay a bit on the dark side of trying to be a creative filmmaker. Uh, can you tell us how what sustained you for 2.5 years? It's not like 2 months or 4 months. 2.5 years is a long time. And how
Those two
difficult
and
or
a half
how
years,
easy?
I was learning. I was doing internships. I was doing smaller gigs. So I, at that point of time, I was just learning the art of filmmaking. What I had done in college was small projects. So that triggered like today also when as a servicing person or as account manager, I go on a ad shoot. That vibe and that energy I feel is very different. That is there. That kida is always there. Ki yaar ye karna hai. But I know कि थोड़ा सा I need time to do this. I might not be able to get into it full fledged. A lot of people are lucky, and I somewhere that confidence is not there that probably I can make it.
Okay. One happy note I can strike for you at this point of time. When my wife was unwell, one of the things that we had gone for was a kind of acupressure kind of thing, and that guy was an old guy serving. Serving means he used to open the door, he used to clean the table, he used to come twice a week or something, and he used to keep the chairs in their places, wait for patients, and charge nothing or 20 rupees if I'm not mistaken. And he didn't bother so much. But he was an engineer till the time he retired, and he did his MBBS after he finished his. But after he retired, like at 60, doing an MBBS when you're an engineer is really something. He says, I wanted to
Yeah,
do it. And when he spoke to you, you saw what you miss in doctors. And not to say that all of them are the same, but he had compassion because of his age. He would, he was one of the most wonderful people we met ever. On our journey, we met lot of brilliant people, good people, kind people, good professionals. But he was one of the guys who stayed in my head for so many
hmm.
things. So there's always hope, and retirement is not such a bad idea. But yeah, I
Bad.
hope to.
Ha, I think that is something what we as Indians or Desis feel कि हाँ retirement के बाद you don't have to do anything. You just अभी सब हो गया है. Now you only sit
Hmm.
and pray and wait for uh, to go up. But I think that's a very wrong way to look at it. I think your retirement should be where you can then focus on things that you've not otherwise focused because of all the financial and the family responsibilities that you have. So that's how I look at it.
True. Another thing, again, trying to figure out a mind like yours because of certain experiences you had. You worked long enough in India and then you moved to the UAE. Uh, you were doing reasonably well, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
uh, by Indian standards. Let's put it this way, because the monies obviously don't compare most of the time once one goes abroad. Uh, the culture of staying abroad, while it is very good when you are doing well for yourself, but on a personal level, it's very testing. We were talking a bit about this before we started recording. Uh, I have friends. I have my nephew is abroad. My very close friends have moved. My close friends' kids have moved abroad, and I find that this is one thing that everybody misses. There's some loss of human connect. Not true for everyone, but most of them, especially if they are uh, going at a time when they need to build their academic or their professional careers. They put in everything for that, and the kind of
Hmm.
money one spends in relocating to a new place, uh, and you being alone. So there's no life, so you put those extra hours that you save also back into your profession. But it gets very, very uh, lonely is a very loose term, but purposeless at times, if I were to ask. How do you define your existence, or how have your experiences been?
So initially, when I moved in here, moved to UAE, it got actually gets lonely because you don't like I was telling you, I don't even know who my neighbors are. My mother's learned more about them in her 2 months visit than I have,
Right.
because you come back home in the evening and then you're cooking and then you're in bed and that's it. You don't have any interaction. Saturday, Sunday, you're going out with your friends. You come back home because it's safe to party and stay out. You're coming back home late in the night and there's no stress.
Sleeping.
So that ways it does get lonely. Like I remember when I had initially moved here because of the climate change, I was extremely sick. And घर पे तो you would have, like, your sister, if you have to go to the doctor, somebody will take you if you are not unable to go, and or the doctor can be called home. यहाँ पर there is no such system. So I had to literally in 104 बुखार hail a cab, go to the doctor myself, sit over there. And I remember coming back home and crying. I was like, shit, what is this? And I booked my tickets. I remember the date exactly. 26th September 2017 was when I looked up. I was like, okay, I have 3 days holiday in December. I will go home. And I booked my flight tickets. I was like, I have to go home and see my family because I was homesick. Now, for me, I've lived away from my family, so it was easier that I have experienced that when I was in Pune for 2 years. But then this got a little too long to not be there. And then no, that when you're sick, especially when you're sick and you feel like shit, what is this? Nobody's there to make give you food. Like खाना भी तुम्हें खुद ही बनाना पड़ता है बीमारी में. So it does get lonely. But I think UAE, because there are so many Indians, it literally feels like you're living in Bombay. You end up making similar kind of, your same friends, your desi friends. So you create a group which becomes your family away from family. But when you're living places like your Canada and UK, US, where you probably that kind of a system is not there, then I think it becomes too difficult. For me also, like in the last 5 years, then I decided to get my sister here after dad passed away. I thought that, why should mom and sister live over there alone? They can be here with me, and even I won't be that homesick. Because my year used to be planned ki, okay, December I have to go home. So what are the things I need to check my flight ticket? That would be the goal, and that would be the purpose, that I'm going to see my family in December when I get to travel. So your year basically is just a countdown to getting home.
Well, NRIs do populate this country in December very often, as I'm private to a lot of my friends planning their holidays around the Christmas and the New Year because they tend to get
We are
even more
3 weeks.
homesick because everybody else is like with their families and enjoying, and I think it might get difficult. Also, it's an extended leave for most people.
Also,
That
what happens is when you're away, like over here, Diwali, Ganpati, you don't feel anything. Like Christmas doesn't feel like Christmas because that whole festive scenario that you have in India is not there over here that much.
true.
So, that is, I think, the major that thing that you miss. Like there is a Falguni Pathak show happening on 7th and 8th of October for Navratri, and everybody is going crazy ki passes mil jaye ya tickets book karo. It's just 2 days and you have to be there. So it's like that.
Yeah. Um, One question that comes up in mind, we've been talking practical things for a while now, last 20, 25, 30 minutes. Um, as much as I know, your experiences have been very hardcore, very difficult. Uh, moving from where your socioeconomic background is, your choice of advertising as a career within Bombay, staying away from the mainstream where we had to work and travel so much, and which is not so rare in Bombay. Obviously, all of us have our own struggles, but I'm talking specifically to you about your experience and thought process. Uh, there's been a lot of quote unquote dissatisfaction in various ways. I don't want to give it a name like suffering because that's very heavy funda, but dissatisfaction about traveling time or getting to achieve what you want or uh, lack of equal opportunity due to distance or uh, making choices like staying alone or studying alone, like you did, uh, without getting melodramatic about it, if you can. How has your inner life developed, and what are the changes that have come through due to your experiences being like you had to work against the tide for quite some time
Uh, uh,
to be as successful as you've been now, for whatever it
I
is
would
worth, obviously.
a lot. My move to UAE, I think, and I've told you this, I think it was the best decision ever. Because when I was working in Bombay, I didn't have a work-life balance. I didn't have a personal life. I would not see my friends for days. Forget friends. I would not even see my parents or have a decent conversation with them when I was living in the same house with them. My travel time, by the time I would get home, would be 1 a.m. and my parents would be asleep. I would get up the next morning, just pick my bag and go. And Saturday, Sunday, I would just end up sleeping because of the exhaustion. When I moved to UAE, I would finish work by 6. Clients would not call me. My boss would not call me for anything. I would have time to get home, make a cup of tea for myself, call my parents, tell them about my day. Fridays would be at that time Fridays, now Saturday, Sunday. Fridays is sacred. Like nobody would call you. Even now on weekends, we clients don't message you, don't text you unless there is something collapsing somewhere and it
Emergency.
is so work-life balance that you get from what you're getting in India is amazing. And you have so much more personal time for yourself. You can pick up hobbies. I started learning Arabic. I was learning Tagalog. I started doing yoga, which I never did ever in my life because I thought it would be boring. But then I've met a instructor who's become a very close friend, and he pushed me towards yoga. Not so I have time for myself. I can go out weekends. I can plan sightseeing. I have time to spend with myself as well. I can read. I learned to bake. So that personal time that you don't get, that is what, like, for me it's monetary, of course, that's different, that's always there. But if you ask me for personal, then yeah, you get your me time. Bombay, I feel, I don't know about other cities, but for Bombay you feel like you're in that hamster in a cage where you're just running ki agar wo 9-10 ki train shoot gayi, then you don't know, the next day in your whole, it's a domino effect, your whole day is gone. So that doesn't happen here.
Okay, that's still physical, but what I mean, if I understand correctly from the various activities that you mentioned, is would you say that you started to respect yourself more, understand your potential, study yourself, more introspection? Uh, did all that happen? And if it happened, what did you realize? Can you, even if one little thing that you can think of, that you realize that you didn't know you have it yourself, and you suddenly discovered that
Yeah, like a lot of, like I was saying, more confidence and independence on making decision making, and thinking, like earlier what used to happen is everything would be asking your parents or somebody, okay, this is what I need to do. For example, I was setting up my house and I needed to buy a fridge. So that was something that I had never done, and for me, I was like, shit, how am I going to do that? Or just taking myself to the doctor. So that kind of independence, I think when you do it the first or the second time, then you are more confident. So now when I'm making decisions, I think I understand what I need. I've understood myself also, because when you're staying alone, you realize what your limitations are, where your strengths are, and how you can yourself tackle. So that confidence automatically comes in when you're away from things. You're not a babe. You're not babied anymore, or there's you can be yourself. You can do your things on your own.
There is one little question, sub question of the same thing. I want to know because you said you take decisions and are more confident of taking those decisions when you've gone through the experience of handling yourself or handling your issue on your own because there's nobody else. Um, does it also make you a better human being in your relationships with others, or does it make you so independent that you say, okay, don't interfere, I'll figure out my life? How
I
do you
think
maintain that
it
balance?
works. I think it works both ways, and then there that is somewhere where I think your personal thing you need to keep a check on. Very interesting. Like for me, I understand now. It makes me a caring person is because when my mother says that no, she's lonely over here, and she has nothing to do. I understand what she means because I have stayed 5 years without anybody over here. So that makes me a little compassionate towards her. So then when I'm in the house, I make sure to have a conversation with her, or plan something so that she doesn't feel that way. uh, and coming to the second example that you gave, where you don't want people to interfere, it was a very interesting thing was when I was visiting on one of my annual breaks, and I made dinner plans with my friend, and I live in Naigaon, Vasai. So I left home at 8 in the night, which is which is pretty early for me as per UAE time, because I can stay out. And my dad happened to ask me, "You're going out now, when will you be back?" And it irritated me, like, why you asking me that? So he's like, and he realized that, that look on my face. He's like, "I'm only asking you because you might not find a rickshaw late in the night. So I will
Yeah.
give you somebody's number that you can call." So I was like, "Ha, okay, okay. I'll make sure I come home in time."
Oh,
So
you're scaring me. I have few years to go for that, but I know that's coming sometime.
yeah, so it's an internal check where you have to realize, okay, you can't be I mean, you're an independent grown person, but there are things that they will ask you about. So
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
internal check that you keep पर वो होता है, yeah.
Yeah, I like it because this is what I wanted to kind of hear as well. Experiential learning about your own troubles. If it is not making you a better person and making you very judgmental and very angry and very arrogant and adamant about your point of view, then we become very antisocial. Uh,
True.
I think I'm sorry to say this, but as a guy, we have all this freedom at all the time in India because unfortunately or fortunately, nobody asks you what you want to do or not. You just say that I want to do this, and it is kind of end of story. No matter how educated your parents are or whatever, at least the time that we grew up. Over a period, I also realized my has been a feminist, and so every time me and my sister had a fight, so I got bashed because it was by default your fault. And I was like,
Yeah.
hello, I am a good guy. I, and she used it at times, but well, it's just bad luck that I grew in a feminist
That
mother.
kind of was the other case in my house, because my sister and I were allowed to go for overnight parties on New Year's and all. And when my brother got into college, he was not allowed because my parents were so scared कि ये गलत he'll fall into wrong company. So they would tell him, "You call your friends home. You have the overnight party over here only. You don't go anywhere else." So
It's funny.
that way, yeah. So like if he had to go for concerts and all, he would tell you can ask permission. He'll go to my sister, and then she'll talk to oh Vashila, what they say. Like वैसे होता
True.
था. So for him, in my house, it was like, even though he was a boy, he was like kept on a very tight rein with the fear कि he'll get into bad company, and that's like करो जो करना है.
Yeah. Well, it's been a wonderful, different kind of chat because I cannot think of any chat I've had where I've talked about random issues without any connect and
Yeah,
deeper learning, but also a lot of small values that have come up. Self-respect being the strongest line that has been running through all our questions and answers. Uh, Another thing that I like is that you've allowed yourself to grow irrespective of the challenging times. You very laughingly explained, but I've been to the UAE and I've spent some time with a few friends, and I think they were, it's like giving oxygen to somebody who's dying for lack of oxygen. They just don't let you go. Whatever you decide, whenever you want to party, they are ready at any point of
yeah.
time. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful chat.
Thank you.
I
I
will see you around.
hope you got something because I was telling you, I don't know क्या होगा.
जो भी हुआ अच्छा ही हुआ. चलो, I see you
ठीक
around.
है.
Thanks.
ठीक है.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.